All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're not trying to solve one of the most infamous cases in modern history. No, we're here to understand why it can't be solved. We're going to take a hard look at the architecture of denial itself.
You know, at the very heart of the JonBenet Ramsey case, there's this really unsettling question. How can the exact same behaviors build a case for two completely opposite things? One for profound, traumatized innocence, and the other for calculated, strategic guilt. So we're going to break down how three key elements, time, grief, and legal strategy, got all tangled up to create this fog that just can't be penetrated. Okay, let's start with the first one.
So our first pillar in this whole architecture of denial is probably the most critical and, for sure, the most controversial one, the weaponization of time. And I'm not just talking about a few hours or a few days, we're talking about a massive gap, a chasm of months that came right after the crime. A full 4 months, let that sink in. It was 4 months after JonBenet's death before her parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, finally sat down for their first formal police interviews. In the world of criminal investigation, well, it's an eternity. So what in the world does a delay like that actually mean? Well, as you can see here, it's a perfect paradox. For an innocent person, this time is a shield, right? It's a totally necessary period to process an unimaginable trauma. But for a guilty person, that exact same chunk of time becomes a sword. It's a chance to build a story, to watch what the police are doing, and maybe most importantly, to let that crucial forensic trail go ice cold. The action is identical, but the motive, night and day. And here's the bottom line. Whatever the intention was, the result for the investigation was a complete catastrophe. This delay, whether it was born from trauma or from strategy, just created this massive void where critical evidence and fresh memories should have been.
Okay, so that brings us to the second pillar, the performance of grief. See, in a case like this, a very private emotion is suddenly on a very public stage, and it became this central, really polarizing point of debate.
So the Ramseys, they really presented two completely different faces of grief. On the one hand, you had this raw, emotional anguish you saw in their CNN interview, a clear appeal for public sympathy. But then on the other hand, you had this guarded, legally cautious version of themselves during the police interviews. And that contrast just invited so much scrutiny. I mean, which one was the real one? You know, there's actually a psychological term for this. It's called affect management. And it's basically the conscious or even unconscious use of emotional display to influence how other people see you. So is it an innocent person's genuine need to have their pain seen and validated? Or is it a guilty person's tool to get sympathy and push away suspicion? Again, the behavior looks exactly the same. And that's the deadlock, right? You're stuck. Was this just the natural way a traumatized mind copes? By compartmentalizing? By showing different faces in different settings? Or was it a calculated performance? It became literally impossible to tell the difference between genuine emotion and a brilliant strategy. And all of this leads us to the final and maybe the most impenetrable piece of this whole puzzle, the construction of a legal fortress. I mean, the Ramseys didn't just go out and hire a lawyer. They built an entire legal fortress. They immediately got top defense attorneys, private investigators, their own team of forensic experts, and even media consultants to help shape the public story. And here we are again, back at the same impossible problem. Every single one of these actions is the constitutional right of any innocent person trying to protect themselves from a potentially flawed investigation. And yet, these are also the exact tools a guilty person would use to obstruct justice and create what experts call comprehensive defensive insulation, basically making the truth legally impossible to get to. And look, we have to acknowledge something here. The ability to build a defense like this was a direct result of their wealth and their social status. It raises some really uncomfortable questions, doesn't it? Like, did the outcome of this case depend just as much on their resources as it did on the actual facts? So, what's the end result when you combine all these ambiguities of time, of grief, of law? Well, you get justice trapped in a void, a case just frozen in time. The pattern becomes crystal clear. Time, which is supposed to give us clarity, instead just created a fog. Emotion, which should reveal the truth, became a performance, and the law, which is supposed to deliver justice, well, it built a fortress instead. Every single pillar of the investigation was flipped on its head and turned into a pillar of ambiguity.
And that is the absolute crucial point. Our justice system is just not built to solve a case where the behavior of an innocent person under attack looks exactly like the behavior of a guilty person who's hiding the truth. The actions are identical. So this leaves us with one last really profound question that goes way beyond this one tragedy. We have these rights to protect the innocent from the power of the state, right? But what happens when those very same rights can be used to create an unbreakable wall of ambiguity? Have we designed a system that protects liberty but at the cost of justice itself? That right there is the unsettling architecture of denial.